Hello again. I'd like to welcome you to my review today of the Murphy Models MM0082. This is a Class 71 Murphy Models locomotive, and it's in one of the newer liveries. And this livery is it's the silver and black with the yellow ends. And we'll take a look at that in a bit more detail in a few moments. So looking forward to this. Say one of the later versions of the 071 class from Murphy Models, and if it's anything like any of the other ones, it should be a very good model indeed. Just looking quickly before we get going any further is just the information sheet that comes with the locomotive. This is typically actually in underneath the locomotive, so when you open the box you normally don't see it. You have to actually lift out the packaging that contains the locomotive to find it, which actually isn't really a good idea. I think they should have it up front. It contains the general information, some information on the history there, and also talks about the removal of the body for adding a DCC decoder. So this comes 21 pin DCC ready, so you do need to add either a standard DCC decoder or a sound decoder, and Murphy Models do have a sound decoder for this, the MM0055, so you can add that to this and that would give it a sound capability. There are also other options for sound for the 71, so there is a choice. You don't need to go just with the Murphy Models version. One note in terms of the DCC decoder, it does need to be a 6-channel decoder to control all the lighting functions. Similar to the Class 201s, the 71s have 3 different categories of lights. They've got the headlights, the normal directional lights, and they also have the cab lighting. And so essentially when you consider the 2 directions for each of those, that means you need a 6-way controller to control all the lighting. So if you were to purchase, say, a typical Hatton's 4-way controller, you'll have control of the directional lighting and the headlights, but you won't have control of the cab lighting. And I think for many people that might be fine. The cab lighting on these can be a little bit bright anyway. So that's just the first thing. Now I think the next thing here is just to take a quick look at the locomotive. And before we take it out of the box, we'll just take off the top covering here. So it's this cover that they have on it, and similar to the other locomotives, particularly the Class 71s, there's this film that's a protective film that's over the locomotive, which is quite handy. So as well as providing a kind of a layer of protection while the locomotive is in the box here in transit, it also provides a kind of a nice means for lifting the locomotive in and out of the box, so it does provide a means for that. One thing I'll kind of make a little bit of a quibble: I do find these boxes a little bit tight, and it can make bringing the locomotive in and out of the box a little bit more difficult than it might otherwise be. And when you compare this to, say, the kind of ice cube type packaging from, say, Bachmann or Hornby, that can be easier, certainly a lot easier, to get your locomotives in and out without damaging them. These locomotives are really detailed, and with things like the railings and the horns on the top and the various features around the front, you really don't want to damage them in any way. And the packaging doesn't, while it provides a good level of protection like this, it doesn't really facilitate taking the locomotives in and out. I know that this sheet here does help with that, but this one in fact is actually particularly tight. So I'm going to take it out of the box off camera. You do get a detailing kit here with the normal items that you'd expect in there. Some extra piping and kind of an apron for the front of the locomotive for either side. So that's in there as well. Okay, let's get this guy out of the box and actually take a closer look. Okay, we've extracted the beast from the box, and one thing just to mention is you get these little protectors here that fit around the railings. So a piece of advice is just to be careful taking these off. The railings they're excellent detail, but they are a little bit delicate. They can either come off and they can break as well. So just advise you to take a bit of extra care. I used a little screwdriver to ease these off, and I would recommend you do the same, because they can get easily broken. Now you can fix them and you can glue them back in, but just be careful of that. So I suppose this is really detailed. I mean, the first comment, and if you're familiar with the 71 class from from Murphy Models, you will be familiar with this level of detail, and this one really just carries on what we would have had from the previous locomotives in the family. And I suppose the main difference really is the livery. The rest of the detail, the handrails here, the kind of red valve control there, the fans on the top here that you can see, the railings, a good level of detail all over, some very nice detailing at the front, and obviously you can enhance that with the detailing kit. The wipers, the little handrails, and then the detailing on the underbody. Again, very good levels of detail here on the underbody, underneath all the way along here, the ladders. All in all, this is really a top-notch model. Excellent weight and balance. Really looks good, and I think it's a quality model. So very similar to the previous Class 71s from Murphy Models. Really a lot of the same level of detailing, just a different colour scheme. Some minor differences associated with this industrial class locomotive. I know liveries are a matter of opinion, and I suppose this is a little bit more industrial in its look. So you've really got this version, and there's also the all grey version, and there's two options of these as well. These are the newer, or probably the newest of the Class 71s that are actually out there, and you will see these in action, and you will see the all grey versions in action as well on the Irish Railways at the moment. So this is absolutely superb looking model, and very pleased with it. Now let's talk about the DCC installation. So unlike the 201 class locos from Murphy Models, you do have to take some screws out and take the top, this body part here comes out. It's essentially what's required to install the DCC sound. The speaker is pre-installed on these, so similar again to the 201s, all of the 71s have a pre-installed speaker. So when you're adding the module, you just need to add the 21 pin module. There's no wiring up the speakers or trying to find a home for the speakers. They're already there. So that's the good news. But as I said, it's not quite as easy as the 201s. You do have to take the screwdriver out and take the top cover off here to install the DCC sound module. I've actually just done that. So this locomotive actually has the DCC sound module installed, and so when we run it on the layout now, we'll run it in DCC mode with the sound on as well. So you'll get a full feel for the locomotive with the full sound upgrade installed. So hopefully that should be informative and should give you a good idea of what this locomotive is fully capable of. Okay, so that's really this part of the review. Let's take a look at the layout and let's see how this guy performs on the track. Okay, we're going to get ready to get going here. We're turning on the lights and we'll start up the motor. And I think it's the usual very impressive Class 71 startup sequence. We are using the Murphy Models sound unit here, the MM0055. As I mentioned, there are other units available. You can get Zemo options here, for example, that would have similar but obviously some more distinctive sounds as well. And I do have some other locos that I will be covering that do have some of those other sounds, so I'll put some links in the description so you can check out an alternative sound for the 071. Okay, we're going to get going, and again a really good sound effect, some squeal as we pull off there. Now we're running with a rake of Dapol pocket wagons here with containers, and this is actually a pretty typical configuration that you'll see this class of locomotive running for a freight application. So we're going to start out just running at relatively low speeds, give you a feel for that.
Now you probably noticed the very bright cab lights, which they really are. They have this kind of blue tinge in them as well. I haven't seen that on any of the other 71s, and they're actually too bright and they're too blue, so not so good. So we'll be turning those off, I think, in a minute. So good, really rock solid, steady low speed performance is typical from any of the 71s from Murphy Models. So we'll turn off that horrible light. So I'll say excellent low speed performance. This is obviously under DCC, but these locomotives perform really well under DC as well. Exceptional, I would say. They really are good at the lowest possible speed. They're as steady as you'll get. So very well done by Murphy Models. So we'll start to speed this up a little bit now. There is a full running session, and I'll put a link in the description with this locomotive and this rolling stock. Now you can run this locomotive, actually it is used for passenger applications as well, and you will see videos online of this, say, pulling a rake of Mark IIIs in the old orange livery. And I might do a running session with one of those at some point in the future. So we'll just steadily speed it up now to give you a feel for what this looks like when it's going a little bit faster. Very strong pulling power, of course. I've put just a modest rake on here, but we could have a rake easily of twice the size or more. These are powerful locomotives. Now the pocket wagons probably do a little bit of weathering, but I do have some weathered versions I'll need to use in the future. So get a little bit faster now. Just think the sounds there are really good. We're not going to go all the way to top speed on this today, which would look a little bit ridiculous with a freight run like this. But we'll go up to a reasonable speed now, so we'll just to give you a feel for, I suppose, what sort of performance this can give. And these do have a pretty good top speed on them, as do the 201s from Murphy Models as well. And to combine that with their good pulling power, you can get really some very impressive running sessions with these. In general, the Murphy Models locomotives are pretty well impeccable in terms of their performance. I don't think I've ever had a derailment with one of them. They're very tolerant. They're tolerant of pretty dirty track as well, points and irregularities. And they give really good performance, so again, all credit to Murphy Models for that. They are exceptional. I mean, I've had issues with other classes of locomotives from other vendors at different points in time, but the Murphy Models have been impeccable, and impeccable record. We're speeding it up here now. Probably getting up closer to a kind of prototypical top speed here. We could go further, but as I say, we'll probably call it a day at this speed, and we'll just wind her down now and after this. We'll just start bringing down the speed a little bit gradually, and we'll bring her back to home. I don't know, I just find with the Murphy Models locomotives, this locomotive as well, actually, it's very, very realistic, very good sound on them, very good performance. They really are top notch, and this is no exception from the others in the Class 071 series. So just bring her to a halt now. Again, really good at low speed. And we'll just bring her to a halt. I love that braking sound. And I love that idling sound when she's just stopped like that. So I hope you found this pretty good. I think it's a very impressive session. The only piece I suppose that I don't like so much is the very bright lights in the cab, the bright blue light. But we can always turn that off. And I'm not really sure where that came from, but that's the end of that session. Okay, we're going to take a look at the summary now for the Murphy Models MM0082. This is a Class 71 locomotive for Murphy Models, and it's in the black and silver, i.e. freight livery as they call it. As with any of the 71s, it's 21-pin DCC ready out of the box, so you need to install a controller. And the Murphy Models options are the MM0055 or the MM0055, which is the sound controller. It does have a speaker pre-installed, so when you're installing the controller, that's all you need to do. There's no additional wiring, which is good news. The extra features, they fully separately controllable directional lights, headlights and cab lighting, so that's the reason you do need the 6-channel decoder for that. There's a lot of detail on these models, very detailed handrails that are on the models that are very impressive. It's got spring buffers front and back, and a detailing kit as well. The unbox weight of the locomotive is just over 0.5 kilogram, and that's a pretty impressive weight. It'd be typical to a typical Bachmann locomotive would have a similar weight. Helgem would probably be even heavier again. So I think it's a good balance from a weight perspective, and gives you good traction, good pickup on the rails without being excessive. Selling price for these, and unfortunately they're not that readily available anymore, so you're probably going to have to get them through an auction channel like eBay. I don't believe there's any available now through the retail channels. Typical selling price is between 125 and 165, and really on eBay you're going to be paying the upper end of that range now, unfortunately. There weren't a lot of these made. I think between this and its stablemate there was about 500 in totals in this livery, so not that common now, and they are sold out from a retail perspective. Next one I'm going to look at is the Scorecard, and the performance on this locomotive, as with all of the 71s, is a 5-star performance. I don't know that there's any better in an OO gauge locomotive. These are top notch on both DC and DCC. Excellent low speed, mid speed and high speed, and flawless performance over any type of points, irregularities, and as I mentioned, very tolerant to even dirty track, which can be unusual for some locomotives. Some locomotives can tend to be very fussy over that. Appearance wise, I'm giving it a 5-star as well. I think and I give that pretty well to all the 07 ones. They've all got an excellent level of detail, both in the underbody and the upper body, and really really nice looking locomotives as well. The sound module, 4.5 star. It's a high score. You could potentially do a little bit better. Some people change the speakers. They do look at some of the alternatives like the Zemo versions from Mr. Sound Guy, and so you can potentially get it a slightly more powerful sound and some additional sounds, so there is better than this, but at the same time it is very good for the standard sort of sound module, and to be honest, I'm quite pleased. I do have a mix of both, and that's probably a good thing. Extra features, 3.5 star for the various extra detail. Packaging and documentation, 4 star, and an overall 5-star score. There's no quibble there. This is a superb runner, as given the summary there. Great on all counts in terms of detail, sound, appearance, and it really is another excellent Class 071 from Murphy Models. They've done a tremendous job with these locomotives, and sad to see us probably coming to the end of the series at this point. I will be doing a review on the all grey livery in the near future. Just looking to get some suitable rolling stock, additional rolling stock for that, and I will be going through that as well. But really tremendous models. I do believe these will be in huge demand in the future, as will all of the range. You still can get a lot of the orange versions available, the various orange and black liveries, and my strong advice is to pick one up even if you can't get this particular livery. So highly recommend it if you can see one, if you can be lucky enough to get hold of one, or somebody perhaps give you one. These are tremendous models, and will give years of enjoyment, and will be quite valuable models, I think, to have in the future as well. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed today's review. I really enjoyed the running session with this particular locomotive. I do like it a lot. Please subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. As I say, I do have a number of additional reviews lined up, both for Irish and UK models, which I want to cover. I hope this was a useful session for you, and I tried to make these as useful as possible. So any comments, please, or suggestions, please put them in the comments section below. Give a thumbs up if you like the review, and I hope to see you on one of these reviews in the very near future, and thanks for watching today. Okay, happy modeling.